Hello, darshanmaharaja here. Yesterday was a sad day. We all know about the multiple terrorist attacks in Israel by Hamas, and the images were harrowing. Now, this was made worse by some of the reactions in Canada. And I had thought that Canada and Canadians would be better, but apparently that is not universal. Now, before I get to the main point here, there is, if I may go slightly on a tangent, when I was living in the UAE, we used to have a lot of discussions with my Muslim friends, and they all used to proudly claim that in Islam, according to the rules of war, targeting of civilians is not allowed, and specifically targeting of women, children, the elderly, and the infirm is not allowed. So that was basically what yesterday's multiple terrorist attacks were. They were targeting, some soldiers were targeted, but mostly it was against women, children, the elderly, and the infirm. So I am not qualified to opine on whether this falls afoul of the rules as enunciated in Islam, or at least as my Muslim friends in the UAE used to claim. So let's leave that aside. But this disappointing reaction that I'm talking about, it came from various sources: politicians, academics, the media, and the general public. Uh, that is disappointing enough. Now, among the politicians, we had multiple cases where they tweeted out something and later on deleted the tweet because they were basically trying to straddle both sides. Now, I know that the Israel-Palestine conflict is uh, unbelievably complex. I'm not, I don't have sufficient resources, mental or otherwise, to deconstruct all that and arrive at what is fair or what is truth. Because frankly, for 75 years, the whole world has been trying, and the issue remains unresolved. So I'm not going to attempt that. But what I am concerned about as a Canadian is the reaction that Canadians give. And on a day when such terrorist attacks have been carried out, trying to look at both sides is, in my opinion, not the right thing to do. You have to sympathize or empathize with the victims, more so because the images were so proudly and cheerfully broadcast by the perpetrators. So, I mean, regardless of the entire overhang of the history of Israel-Palestine conflict, that deserves unreserved condemnation, which so many of our politicians were not able to come out with immediately. They had to, go back and like uh, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow, she later deleted her both sides tweet and uh, then issued another tweet saying, she has deleted this because it was harmful. Yes, we know it was harmful, but you should have known before putting it out in the public. Now, the exception, and let me make it clear, I have very little common ground with the NDP on policy issues, but the exception came from the premier elect of Manitoba, Wab Kino. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he was, in fact, his tweet was absolutely what should be the case for every politician. But even under his post on his tweet, if you see the replies, so many of them were saying that this is just Palestinians trying to rid themselves of an occupation, etc., as if that justifies the kind of violent behavior that we saw, and especially the broadcasting of it. That and one of them was Kha Valia. who became known or infamous for her tweet about burning it all down a couple of years ago, when all those indigenous residential schools were in the news, and she said burn it all down, and she became controversial. So she also pitched in saying that this is just a resistance, or so words to that effect. QP, the union at McMaster University in Hamilton, also expressed or wrote words that amount to expressing full support for what was done by Hamas in Israel. Now, in the media, we had our national broadcaster, CBC, taxpayer funded, which put out advice to its journalists to refrain from referring to Hamas as a terrorist organization. Whereas since 2002, Hamas has been listed as a terrorist organization by Canada. So why a taxpayer-funded national broadcaster would ask its journalists to refrain from using that designation is something worthy of an investigation, but we know what the answer is going to be. And the most disturbing part was the uh, jubilant demonstrations within Canada by the members of the ordinary public. I saw images of those in Toronto and Mississauga, and only Ontario Premier Doug Ford, as far as I have seen, has come out against that, saying this is not acceptable in Canada. Because look at it objectively, and you realize that this was actually a terrorist attack. If it had been 9/11 or the Air India bombing, I mean, any celebration of those atrocities would have been condemned. But somehow, in this particular instance, people are trying to find out what to say. Now, one of the arguments that I saw was that Palestinians also get killed uh, allegedly by Israel. And uh, my point is this whole argument is coming from a completely different angle, because it's when Palestinians do die, and yes, they do, there is no jubilant celebration of that fact. So, there is a very significant difference in the reaction. Now, would we want that kind of celebration to happen when Palestinians also die in this conflict? No, we wouldn't. So, why is it okay in this case? And our embassy in Israel, I'm told it is closed until Monday morning because they are on their Thanksgiving long weekend. At the same time, I hear that the United States and Poland have already organized to repatriate their citizens from Israel. So this reminded me of the infamous incident when the Taliban took over Kabul in 2021, and our diplomatic staff, beat an ignominious retreat without informing everyone around them. So I think the security detail, the Nepali guys, they were left stranded there. This is the kind of presence and image that we portray internationally, and then we wonder why we are not being respected enough. Well, we are not displaying any characteristics that would earn that respect. And finally, this whole disappointing aspect of the reaction in Canada to the terrorist attacks in Israel, I think there is a connection to the fact that we are giving a little bit too much importance to foreign issues, and diaspora politics, as we know, is having an outsized effect in Canadian politics. And then there are, because of the diaspora politics, there are vote banks that are basically organized around foreign issues. So I can understand if the politicians are a little circumspect in deciding what to say about this, although I don't agree with that attitude or that approach. But I can understand where they are coming from. I disagree, but I understand, they have locked themselves or painted themselves in a corner. So, but from the academia, from the media, and especially from the general public, this is completely reprehensible in my view. And I think we need to start working to dismantle this whole structure. We are trying to dismantle white supremacy or whatever. Those are fake goals. This is the thing that we need to dismantle truly if we want a harmonious society in Canada in the future. Those were my thoughts today. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you the next time. Until then, goodbye and be well.